Oh, hi. Hey, gang. How you doing? It's Saturday morning, 6:30 a.m. I'm the only one up. This is my quiet time. I've got my cup of coffee and a book. Not a book for school, just a book for pleasure. This is Kitchen Confidential. It's by Anthony Bourdain. It's what made him famous. You know, the food guy, Anthony Bourdain, who unfortunately killed himself. Anyways, yeah, it's a little cold out. The heater isn't working here, but I just got all my warm clothes on, so it's cozy. I say I've got my coffee. Oh, I usually have my music playing. But what I really try to do, this is the time when I try to disconnect from all social media. A good thing is like even put the phone way away, turn it off. So, and because a lot of you were talking about how in your journals for the first week about your lives and your reading, how a lot of you do. There's a number of you that really love to read and have read a lot. A lot of you are saying, "Well, I used to read, or I just don't like reading because I can't find anything I like. I don't like novels. I don't like romances." And so, one thing I wanted to share with you is that there are books on everything, and it's true that our lives are really busy, but there's nothing really more pleasurable than like carving out a little time, quiet time for you. Right now it's 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday, but it could be late at night when everybody else is asleep, um, and you just have that little time for yourself, and you get rid of all the distractions. You get your best, you get your coffee, maybe a little snack, and your comfortable chair and your cozy clothes, and you just give yourself time to go into a book. And a book, I kind of recommend a printed book because always reading on the screens, we spend too much time on screens. There's something about holding a physical book that's really pleasurable. So what I wanted to show you today was how many different kinds of books are out there, how many different kinds of things there are to read, and to encourage you um, to see if you can find a way to make reading an everyday part of your life or an almost everyday part of your life. And again, extensive reading, not just clicking, not just clickbaiting. So anyway, this is Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Hilarious book about his rise in the food industry. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. Let me show you some other things I've got here. These are just books that one point I want to make is no, I don't finish every book. I always got several books going at the same time. I do try to finish books, but if I don't finish a book, it's not the end of the world. Here's one. So far I've only kind of scanned around at it. It's called The Walls Around Us, and I don't know where I got it, but and if you look at the subtitle, it says "The Thinking Person's Guide to How a House Works," and uh, and then it's got chapters like, look at the chapters: home improvement for its own sake, the best paint in the world, fear of lumber, the walls around us, electricity, the roof, and like if you look inside, like there's the diagrams and things. So it's, I don't know, it's like sort of like an anatomy or a history of home construction and features about our houses we probably never even think about. And I can see it goes into some history. What's he talking about here? A termite intensive structure, the log cabin. So here he's talking about log cabins. He's got like diagrams. So like if you're into construction and things like this would be a really cool book. And I'm really looking forward to it as I look at it. Another thing I do is I like to read magazines. Here's Harper's. This is I tried to actually back off. I used to have too many subscriptions and it was keeping me from reading books. But one or two magazines and a physical magazine. It's so nice to get it in the mail. And this is sort of a political, social commentary magazine, Harper's. It's full of fascinating things. Right there, you can see the one on the cover, The Dark Hole of Social Media, How the Internet Subverts Democracy. And then somebody who's arguing that Trump is a good president. I think he might be being sarcastic. I'm not sure. But I have to read it to find out. And and there's magazines on everything, not just the ones you see in the grocery store. If you go to like a Barnes and Noble where they have a lot of magazines and look at all the different kinds of, so whatever you're into, whether it's cars, whether it's tattoos. There's magazines on everything, but I like a magazine that actually has text in it. The writing is good. I've also subscribed to National Geographic. That's a great one. And I used to only look at the pictures, but more recently I really get into reading the articles. And you find your favorite writers. Like some writer it's boring, so I don't read that. So I find a writer that I like how he writes. This is one that somebody at school just loaned me. Because she knows that I'm into college. She knows I'm into the outdoors and so forth. And this one's called "The Outermost House: A Year of Life on the Great Beach of Cape Cod." So, I guess he spent a year there by himself. And so this is sort of if you're into nature, this would be like a nature book. And I don't know anything about it. I guess it's a classic. That came out like in the 50s or 60s. So, it's old. Notice, by the way, the good thing about print books is, everyone's different. Look how big the print is and how much space there is. And so that's going to be a real pleasure just to read, and also, you don't have to read a lot. So like, notice how the chapters, like it's 3, and then that's only a few pages long. Then I get to a new chapter. It might even have, no, it doesn't have illustration. So that's about, life out on Cape Cod. So just this last weekend, my girlfriend and I popped into a used bookstore, and I grabbed some things. And she told me, "Hey, you already got too many books," and it's true. But I got some more. I'm really into music. I'm working on my guitar and stuff. And here's one called "The 4 Ages of Music." I'd never heard of this. It's by some German guy, and it's a little old, but I think that'll still be cool. So I'm going to check it out. He's got the First Age, Prehistoric and Early Period, Music in Antiquity and the Orient, the Special Position of Western Music, and then Industrial Culture, Electronic Music and stuff. So I've tasted it. I've got a lot going on. So, but I'm looking forward to checking that out. Will I read every word? I don't know. I'll start it at the beginning. Oh, look, it's got some cool illustrations too of people playing instruments. Like that's a Greek pottery. I've seen that one before. The Greek pottery and things. So So I'm into music. So that's kind of my point. Like whatever you're into, there are books about it. Go on to Amazon, and one book leads to another, and it's endless. And there's and a lot of them are really good. So I noticed that a lot of you are into healthcare. A lot of you are working on your nursing degree and things like that. And actually, I want to do an English 1A on healthcare. I'm working on that. So I was trying to show you stuff that doesn't have anything to do with school, but this might. But I started this the other day. It's my nap book, what I read when I'm taking a nap after lunch at school. This is Reinventing American Healthcare by Ezekiel Emanuel. That's Rahm Emanuel's brother. And some of you might have heard of him. He's now the mayor of Chicago, right? He was like sort of an Obama buddy. But this is a guy who worked a lot on Obamacare. And I was thinking, it's too late to read this. Obamacare was this. He came out with this while they were still trying to pass Obamacare several years ago. And I was thinking, well, this is going to be old. But I started reading it, and it's still really good. And I might not read every chapter, but for example, it's a chapter I'm reading right now, How Did We Get Here? A Brief History of American Healthcare System. So those of you who are, in the healthcare system, in the healthcare industry, you might be really interested in reading about the history of healthcare. So it's not just you going to work, but you learning about this larger system. And of course, we're all interested in healthcare, and healthcare is a big challenge in this country. We struggle with it, and how to fund it, and how to make sure everybody has it or not. I'm just throwing this one in real quick. This is what we're going to read towards the end of the semester: The Autobiography of Red by Anne Carson. It's got that cool picture of a volcano on it, and it looks a little scary, doesn't it? It's written as poetry, but don't worry, it doesn't rhyme. And by the time we get there, I think you're going to love it, about the adventures of a young man with wings that he tries to hide, and he falls in love and gets dumped and travels to South America, ends up in Argentina and Peru, and we'll follow him there. So it's a short little book too. You can see I've written all in it. I write in my books. We'll talk more about that. Oh, here's another healthcare book. The American Healthcare Paradox: Why Spending More is Getting Us Less. Right? I haven't started that one yet. I need to finish this. I try to keep up with my Spanish and my foreign languages. we were in South America this last summer, and I picked this up in Arequipa, Peru, partly just because I thought the cover was cool. The writer's actually Mexican, and it's not the best book in the world. It's a really weird one about this like uh, it's a novel, and it's about some sort of weird cult that develops around the El Poeta Ciego, the blind poet, and it's kind of an analysis of cult behavior. But it's sort of, but I love the cover, and it's helping me with my Spanish. So even though it's not the greatest book in the world, it's great for my Spanish. It's the print's nice and big and things. So I'm working on that. My brother sent me this. I don't know if I'll ever get it read. I read like the first few pages, but I've got so much going on. But and my brother, who doesn't read much, or he doesn't read like novels and stuff like I do, but he does read, and he reads stuff like this, and I probably ought to read it. The Big Rich: The Rise and Fall of the Greatest Texas Oil Fortunes. And so it's about the history of the Texas oil industry, but especially about the oversized characters, the men and probably women who created the industry, and the rise and their rise and their fall. So kind of a rags to riches to rags story. It's real life, real stuff. No, everything doesn't have to be a book you read from cover to cover, or that's I also love reference books and guidebooks. So I have a whole lot. I'm really into the outdoors, hiking and mountain biking and backpacking and stuff. And one of my favorite areas is Anza Borrego down there, in eastern San Diego County. And here's a book. I actually have an older version of this one, but this is a new one, even though it's used. It's like 2018, and it comes with this fabulous map of Anza Borrego. So when I go to Anza Borrego, I can, get some ideas from a guidebook. And of course, you can get a lot of this stuff online right now, guidebook stuff. Still, there's a time, especially when you're out in the woods or out there where you're away from the internet, which is great to do, to get away from the internet. And so I love guidebooks. Oh, and just one more on a kind of more serious note. I've been exploring the whole issues around gender and gender equality and so forth. And this is an older one that we actually have at our library that I read. I read it all, and I keep meaning to write a review of it or write a summary of it. Biology at Work: Rethinking Sexual Equality, and it explores the question of whether if to what degree there really is sex discrimination in the workplace. This person comes at it from a more conservative point of view and argues that if you look carefully, one, that there really are legitimate reasons that there is some sexual differentiation at the workplace. And I won't go into it, but it's more of a technical book. But some of you, especially those of you who are into math and statistics and things, might find this, or in science or into biology, might find this really interesting, because this is a really hot topic, even though it's a bit of an older book. It's like around 2000. And I've got some other more recent books. So that's, another area that I'm interested in. So, but your interests might not be the same as mine. Now, where did the book go that I was reading? Oh, yeah. Kitchen Confidential again, back to Anthony Bourdain. So your interests, whatever your interests are, my point is, carve out a little time, get yourself a cup of coffee, put on a little quiet music. I got my little Bose here playing a little quiet music on my Spotify. And I'm going to read what Anthony Bourdain had to say about his early life in the cooking industry. All right. Have a good weekend, y'all.